Black Flag, The Dead Kennedys, The Bad Brains, Flipper, and many, many, many more. Sounds to me like a perfect compilation. Hey everyone, my name is Rich, and this is Rich Talks Records, episode number 55. And today we are picking back up the sub-series of perfect compilations, the second one, and today we are going to be talking about Rat Music for Rat People, released on Go Records, somewhere, depending on who's telling the tale, in 1982 or early 1983. Now, I kind of like Beach Boulevard. I don't have a super long history with this compilation, in that I was confused as to what its contents were for a very long time, and I will explain what I mean. So for the first, so Flipper's on here with the song Life, and I somehow thought that this was the same version of Life as released on here, one of the greatest live albums ever made, Public Flipper Limited. I couldn't have been more wrong. And the other thing is, I remember at some point early on the internet looking at a track listing of this album and recognizing all the song names. And my way of thinking was that this was just a compilation of already released material by the bands, not realizing that all of it was exclusive to this and recorded live. Totally missed that part. So it really wasn't until, I don't know, I want to say maybe at some point in the pandemic, that I finally actually heard this, like all the way through. Maybe before that, in the second half of the 2010s, I think I might have come across a track or two on YouTube. But yeah, I just hadn't heard the entire thing. And so eventually, at some point during the pandemic, I just started listening to the entire thing. Now, this came out on Go Records. I don't really know that much about Go Records. I looked it up. They released, so there were two other Rap Music for Rap People compilations, and they released some other compilations. There was a band I had never heard of, like I think they were called Mauve or Mauve, I'm not really sure. And then not much else. I didn't really recognize the names of much else. So I'm largely unfamiliar with Go Records, and I'm largely unfamiliar with the people who actually worked on this thing. So it was credited as being recorded by Jim Keeler, and the producer is listed as Dave Ferguson and Paul Rat, which I'm assuming is the Rat Music for Rat People. Among the people who mixed this, though, East Bay Ray of the Dead Kennedys. So, and yes, I throw a lot of those into some of the band names. It's just how I speak. But the cover art designer, which I love the artwork, so I remember seeing like a JPEG of this at some point and thinking, wow, that's really, really sharp looking. And then you, of course, have the back cover. Now, other versions of this, other releases of this came with like a poster and a pullout, and mine obviously doesn't have that. I just have the record, but that's fine because the music sounds great, and that is what we are primarily interested in. There is also a really, really, really cool little sort of, I don't want to say manifesto, but statement of principles on the back that is really cool. And it's funny kind of how eternal some of these ideas really are. So that's about it. The other thing, the album cover design was by Olga Gerard, and I forget now what other records she did, but she did some really cool records in the 90s that it's now just slipping my mind. But she went on to do other cool work. So there is that. Now, I guess we will... So, like I said, I don't really have a great long history with this, other than I think it's amazing. And in the past 5 years, I have listened to it a hell of a lot. And it is all music that is, suffice to say, very familiar to me. And I'm very, very eager to talk about it. Either, if you know this and love this, to encourage you to just listen to it again, or if you've never heard it, to go out and check it out. I'll be linking to it on YouTube. There is a upload of the full thing with one exception, which I will explain, which I will also link to the exception, so you can just slot it in as you will. So the one thing that's interesting about this album is, you know, there were some other really great punk compilations, not just Beach Boulevard, which I covered in a previous video, but there was the Let Them Eat Jelly Beans compilation, which I don't own a copy of. I really need to get one because that is incredible. And also the Not So Quiet on the Western Front compilation, which I guess was somehow, I don't remember the history. It's been a long time since I read up on that, but my understanding was that it was some sort of joint release between Alternative Tentacles and Maximum Rock and Roll. Let Them Eat Jelly Beans was a Alternative Tentacles release, and this was basically recorded primarily in San Francisco at San Francisco venues. So the whole, and Alternative Tentacles, for those who don't know, is a San Francisco label. So and I don't know exactly where Target Video was based out of. I'm not actually sure where Joe Reese was based out of, but there was a lot of crossover with San Francisco bands, and there was certainly no Snobbery or, you know, LA Only or something. So there's interestingly a lot of crossover among, and a shared ethos across some of these compilations, and then also with the Target Video stuff. So I think that's really cool. And I think there's also a sense that across these different areas, that the best of the best really rose to the top, and that there really was a sense of this is like these are the peak bands, and this whole thing is about peak. This entire it is truly a perfect compilation. So the whole thing is peak, basically. So with that all out of the way, let's just get into music. So the first two songs are by DOA, recorded on Halloween 1981 at the Elite Club in San Francisco. Now, I'm going to put this down. I have never been the biggest DOA fan. I've just never really made the full jump. There was a compilation of live stuff of theirs on demand. This is about, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago that I watched. And I remember watching it 3 or 4 times, mainly because it was footage of Chuck Biscuits playing. And if you've watched my Black Flag videos, you will know my incredible reverence for the utter greatness, ridiculous greatness of Chuck Biscuits. And I kind of just basically thought that he was the best thing about the band. There was the record store that I talked about in my appearance on the Rock All Over You podcast, Record Breakers. They had a DOA singles compilation that and Hardcore 81. And I nearly bought either or both of those on multiple occasions and wound up putting them down to go buy something else because that record store was so ridiculously good that I would sort of get distracted and go get something else. So I've never really made the jump on DOA. For whatever reason. I have nothing against them. I just have never really made the jump. However, starts off with America the Beautiful. Great. Chuck Biscuits is great. The one critique I have of this album, the lone critique, is that it is a little thin in regards to the rhythm sections. So it tends to be guitars and vocals forward, and the rhythm section a little bit at the back. That's my lone criticism. It is, but I will say this, it is just an excuse to play the record louder, and that sort of takes care of the slight imbalance. But America the Beautiful, great song, great guitars, and it's really cool. And I need to go and check out DOA. I don't know why I've never made the jump. And then a song that I have heard a bajillion times for some reason, all over the place. Fucked Up Ronnie. There's a lot of anti-Reagan stuff here, so be prepared for that. I can't imagine that would come as a surprise to anybody. So, but Fucked Up Ronnie, great song, great rave up, great kind of punk rock classic. So that's basically it for DOA. I still will say I hold to the theory that Chuck Biscuits is the best thing about DOA, but like I said, I have no axe to grind with it. If you love them, fantastic. Absolutely. Next on this perfect compilation, we get a near 8-minute Life from Flipper, one of the greatest songs ever written from one of the greatest albums ever released. Yes, I've held this one up before. Album, Generic Flipper. It doesn't really get much better than this. This is an incredible album. Flipper videos will happen at some point, I promise. I don't know if it'll be this year or next year. I sort of have slotted out for the rest of the year some of the more ambitious videos I want to do, and I've kind of set aside time, so it's just a matter of who's going to get the slot when the time comes. But again, I had said that I thought the version was brought over from Rap Music for Rap People on this Public Flipper Limited, on this version of Life. This version of Life was recorded, almost like a year and a half, almost 2 years later. And I guess about a year and a half later. It's from '83. And this 5.5 minute version of Life is, to me, the definitive version of Life. It's just so utterly, absolutely incredible in every possible way. Flipper, one of my all-time favorite bands, one of the greatest bands that ever lived. This version is sort of closer to the album. It's in that it is slower in pace, but it is expansive, sprawling, fearless, will shatter, just, again, kind of fearless, sort of outsider music, vocal, incredible. The band is great. Steve DePace starts picking up the tempo a little bit about, 2/3 of the way through or so, to great effect. Ted Falcone, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. He was sort of the next development beyond Keith Levine. Absolutely heroic. One of the most unique electric guitar players in the history of rock and roll. Bruce Luce, like every single member of the band at different points has kind of been my favorite member of the band. And the fact that you have two unbelievable songwriters in Bruce Luce and Will Shatter, and two really amazing contrasting voices, and great visionary guitar player, and then rock solid, unassuming drummer holding it all together, kind of like the Beatles. So you can say that Flipper are the the Beatles of punk. So I'm totally going to go with that one. But this is an amazing version of an amazing song. The lyrics, it's one of the greatest sets of lyrics ever written. Flipper was perfect. You basically can't go wrong with live recordings. As great as they were in the studio, I don't know if I really want to fully commit to they were better on stage than they were on record, because especially I think their second album, Gone Fishin', is just, it's such I have so much love and awe and reverence for that album, so I don't want to fully commit. However, what I will say though is that you basically can't go wrong with Flipper live recordings, because they were such a ridiculously amazing band. So, and this is them where they're really in their element. So, Life. Also, with Flipper, that was apparently recorded at the same show as DOA, Halloween '81 Elite Club. So there you go. So next, we have the Circle Jerks with Live Fast, Die Young, as originally released on, and this is from May 24th, 1982, also recorded at the Elite Club. The song originally was released on this, one of the greatest albums ever made, Group Sex. A perfect album, basically. And this version, this original version of the Circle Jerks, the what is it, Chuck Biscuits Earl Liberty lineup is pretty formidable. If you can find live footage of that version of the band, that's pretty amazing. However, this version, one of the only people to give Chuck Biscuits a true run for his money, Lucky Lair, unbelievable drummer, absolutely incredible. And they were an amazing band. And what's funny is early on in my Black Flag fandom, because they would throw shots at Keith Morris, I sort of took Black Flag's side, right, a decade later when it didn't matter in any way, shape, or form. But I sort of took Black Flag's side. I was like, yeah, like Keith is not like the guy that and when I saw The Decline of Western Civilization, it really screwed with me, because it was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. no. Keith is amazing, and yeah. So I raved and raved about Keith Morris in my original Black Flag video. I absolutely love the guy. Like, he's made incredible records. He's an incredible frontman, great lyricist. Like, he's one of the best. And an absolute legend. And this live performance, I mean, this is the Circle Jerks in their prime. That original lineup, amazing. Greg Hetson is such an interesting guitar player because he's not super, how do I put it? He's not super skilled, right? And he's not like the fearless, like, kind of lunatic that, and I say that in a good way, that like Ted Falcone is or something, and he's not like a chops guy like Dr. No or something. However, Greg Hetson truly, and I mean this as a very high level compliment, truly uses everything he has and makes the most of everything that he has and makes it work. And that is what I love about his playing. And there is the Motorhead t-shirts are not for nothing. There is that like real rock and roll snarl to his playing and attitude to his playing that I absolutely love. And with that rhythm section, and then you've got goddamn Keith Morris over the top of that, incredible, amazing song. Keith is in top form, perfect, love it. Like, how could you not love it? Up next, we have two songs from the Bad Brains. I say the Bad Brains. Yes, I know it is just Bad Brains, but that is the way that the way I talk is just the way I talk. So this was recorded March 20th, 1982, also at the Elite Club. The first song that they do is an absolutely incendiary version of How Low Can a Punk Get, originally released on this, 1983's Rock for Light, one of the greatest albums ever made, one of the most perfect albums ever made. Recorded music basically just doesn't really get any better than this. This is the version, of course, on Caroline, mastered at the wrong speed, and this is the reissue on Bad Brains Records, remastered at the right speed, the correct speed. So this is the version I now listen to. Now, How Low Can a Punk Get is one of their most incendiary songs, which is truly saying something, because this is, musically speaking, I don't think that this is going to be a super controversial statement. Musician for musician, and then as a band, I think the Bad Brains are the greatest hardcore band that ever lived. I just don't really know how you could realistically argue against that. They are just such phenomenal overachievers, both as players and both as a band playing together. The synergy and the telepathic ability for them to play those arrangements and be that tight but that ferocious and that rocking. There's a lot of like unseen perfect energy just flowing between those guys in such a way that really, I mean, and then the songwriting voice of HR. I think you can say that as a band and being at such the top of the form, I think you could easily say that Bad Brains are kind of like the Beatles of punk rock. I think you could probably say that. But it also, so HR is, I'm not the first to rhapsodize about him. I'm definitely not going to be the last. As a lyricist, absolutely incredible. As a singer, absolutely incredible, because he really can sing beautifully and melodically. And when he is feral and intense, his feral and intense is like more feral and intense than basically anybody else. And then just as a physical force performing, absolutely incredible. There's really nothing like the Bad Brains. And How Low Can a Punk Get? I mean, the fact that the intensity is turned up even from the album, is the fact that they would even be able to match the album is quite a statement, because that's an incredible performance on Rock for Light. Now, the second song is called You, or Is It? You was first released 1982 here. However, it was first recorded, I think this was recorded in 79. Don't hold me to that. But it was recorded here on the wonderful black Dots record, and where it was recorded under the name Don't Bother Me. So the full title of the song is You, brackets You, Don't Bother Me. And I'm just trying to see. Yeah, it looks. I think this was recorded in '79. So the song did not get released in studio form, however, until 1989's album Quickness, an album that I no longer have because I didn't like it very much, and I gave it away to some punk rock girl. And funnily enough, I was thinking about it, I actually don't remember which punk rock girl I gave it away to. There were many at the time, so who knows. However, you can basically take the three versions of You, or Don't Bother Me, or You Don't Bother Me, and on the Quickness album, it is mashed up with this other plotting thing called, I think it's called Gene Machine, and it's this bizarre back and forth medley gene splice of these two otherwise unrelated songs, and I re-listened to it again, and yeah, you can basically kind of track the existence of the Bad Brains. So you have this, which is more early punk rock, and which is menacing and sardonic and incredible, and an amazing performance and song entirely in its own right. Here, it is a hardcore masterpiece. It is dazzling and utterly perfect in every possible way. And then you have the, well, what's his face? Earl, the drummer, is not, Earl Hudson is not playing on the record. He doesn't play at all on the Quickness. It was some guy named Mackie or Mackie. I don't remember. So he's not on it. The record is not very well produced. It's mixed in kind of an atrocious 80s sort of way that is just very, very unflattering to the band. And then the idea to splice it in with this Gene Machine song is just, it's a pretty inexplicable decision. So somewhere between the Black Dots version, which I consider to be the definitive studio version, and this hardcore masterpiece, you have two contrasting, unbelievable versions of this ridiculously great song. And also, truly, again, Daryl, Earl, Dr. No, and HR, that's a four-person lineup of total, absolute musical perfection. You really cannot praise the Bad Brains enough. So that, I feel that needs to be said. And closing out side one, we have recorded August 3rd, 1982 at Secret Studios in San Francisco. We have Crucifix with Steel Case Enclosure. I don't really know anything about Crucifix other than apparently the lead singer was Cambodian, and I guess might have been a Cambodian refugee, perhaps. I don't really know that much about them. The song is cool. There is one review I saw of this record said that this was one of the greatest punk rock performances of all time. Sure, if that's working for you, great. I'm not gonna tell you that it isn't. However, in my opinion, it's perfectly fine. The problem with Crucifix is they are going, again, up against Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, The Circle Jerks, Flipper, The Avengers, The Dils, TSOL, Bad Brains. Come on, this is the absolute utter top of the top. Music just doesn't get better. So fair play to Crucifix. They're cool. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing to criticize. But we are in the realm of utter greatness here. So, but that is how side one closes out, and then we flip the record over. Side two opens with the Dead Kennedys, two songs from March 20th, 1982, again at the Elite Club. First song, Forward to Death, originally found here on the Dead Kennedys' incredible debut, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. So, Forward to Death, written by original second Dead Kennedys guitarist 6025, also known as Carlo Cadona. Great song, great rock and roll song, great just sort of general misanthropic, anti-authoritarian song. The performance here is amazing. I I might like it better than what's on the album. It's beautiful. It's incendiary. D.H. Pellegro is on the drums. Really, really, really hard to top him. And this version, I mean, this is, for me, East Bay Ray, Klaus Fluoride, Jello, and D.H. That's the Dead Kennedys to me. With all due respect to anybody else who was in the band before, that's the band to me. So amazing performance. You know, Jello, one of the greatest frontmen that ever lived. You know, and you know, the voice, the intensity, the charisma, amazing. And so Forward to Death, awesome, great rock and roll performance, mixed really, really, really well. So this is maybe the best sounding thing up to this point. And then we have the incredible song I Am the Owl from their second album, Plastic Surgery Disasters. And do I also like this better than what's on the album? Maybe I do. This is obviously a great album, of course. I have never really talked about the Dead Kennedys. Someday, maybe I might do videos about them. It's hard. I feel like a lot of people have sort of told the Dead Kennedys story, but they were as formative to me as Black Flag were. And I mean, my God, did I listen to a lot of Joel Biafra as a teenager. He really, 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 really shaped my worldview. And I owe a lot to Jello and to the Dead Kennedys. A lot. So, I Am the Owl, amazing performance. Like, they were such an incredible band. It's perfect. Like, listen to it. Like, go and listen to this compilation, because if I haven't mentioned this already, it is an absolutely perfect compilation. So, yeah, like, what can you say? It's them, peak form, playing one of their greatest songs. It's as simple as that. The next song is Scream by Black Flag. Recorded on, it says here, July 24th, 1982. I think that's one night off. So this was recorded at the On Broadway in San Francisco. And the complete live at the On Broadway set, this was, I believe, from night one. And then there's another version of Scream from night two. It is a tale of two completely different Screams. This Scream is, so this is the 1982 lineup. My man Chuck Biscuits on drums. Like, you basically can't go wrong with 1982 Black Flag. So what's interesting about this version is Chuck Biscuits plays it about, whatever, I don't know, maybe like 10% faster, like it's a beat or two faster, and and especially with the incredible Chuck Dukowski on bass, it really, really, really changes things. Like what Chuck is doing, because what they wound up doing on the album My War, which I love, obviously. I mean, I did a video about it, and it's one of the most important albums in my life. But when Greg recorded the bass, you know, he's just doubling up the guitar. He's doing the Steve Jones thing where he's playing it like the octave down, right? Chuck, this is really, really, really gnarly, mind-bending, psychedelic, punk psychedelic bass playing that he's doing. It is incredible. And, oh my God, Chuck Dukowski, I mean, there's a reason I have so much reverence for this man, right? And why I have so much reverence for the band. But with what Chuck is doing and what Chuck Dukowski is doing, but what Biscuits is doing, playing it faster, it's almost slow funk. It's almost there's a riot going on-esque funk. It is closer to what Flipper does than anything else, right? And how long does it go on for? It's about 4.5 minutes, but it feels like it's 7 or 8 minutes. And it is absolutely glorious. It's Black Flag 1982. Black Flag in 1982 truly could do no wrong. They were absolutely untouchable. The other thing that's interesting about it is not only is it faster and weirdly more rhythmic or funkier, I dare say, but Henry is basically completely improvising the lyrics, kind of like what he would wind up doing later on with some of the live stuff with Black Flag, and then what I think he kind of perfected in his role as a frontman with Rollins' band. So, but here you have kind of a really early version of it, And it's interesting because, you have sort of the ultimate, like, what Dead Kennedys are doing is the ultimate representation of the Dead Kennedys. What the Bad Brains are doing is the ultimate representation of the Bad Brains. What the Circle Jerks are doing is the ultimate representation of the Circle Jerks. This is Black Flag exploring and going out into wild new directions. And indeed, the song would be completely different literally on the next night. So, Scream, incredible, love it. Again, you can't go wrong with this period of Black Flag. Next up, we have the great, the one and only, the True Sounds of Liberty, TSOL. One of my favorite bands of all time. They are one of the bands I really want to do a big granular set of videos on. The three big ones I've alluded to, and I think I mentioned this in another video: TSOL, The Germs, and Flipper. Those are the three that's kind of the psychological shell game I'm playing with myself of who's it going to be? Who's going to be, not the next video I do, but who's going to be the next one that probably over the summer at some point, like, I really go all in and get, like, super obsessive about. So I just haven't made that decision yet. I will do all three eventually, trust me. We will get there, just stick with me. But anyway, TSOL. Now, I had a long, weird, winding path to getting into TSOL that, when I talk about them, I will inevitably spend, like, a good 45 minutes on. But suffice to say, they were very much latecomers for me, and I didn't really get it right away. They were one of those bands that, again, kind of like the DOA thing, I watched. There was a show that they played at some college. Was it early 83? It's out. You see it out there sometimes, like on the streaming networks, and that was kind of what I really locked into. And what was interesting was I was really fascinated by their ambition, and I didn't quite get them. And I didn't quite get them. I had a compilation album of theirs, and it just didn't, they never, like, fully clicked to me until they did. And once they did, they became kind of like one of my great rock and roll obsessions, really. So, first of all, Jack Grisham, lead singer, vocalist, Jesus Christ, lead singer, frontman, lyricist, is one of my favorite people in rock and roll. I love Jack Grisham. Like, I love interviews with him. I have several of his books. I love reading his books. I love what he does. I have some of his, like, side project records. I'm all in on Jack Grisham. I absolutely love the band. Like, I mean, I don't know him personally, but my God, he is amazing. And my very brief online encounters with him, he has been very, very cool. So, like, yeah, I'm a huge fan. And then you have the drumming prodigy of Todd Barnes, one of the best drummers of his time. I mean, absolutely phenomenal drummer, and highly influential as a drummer in the punk rock underground. As great as they are, and as much as I love them, and they had been in Vicious Circle together, so they sort of were a team. But the other team is, musically speaking, what really grabs me about TSOL, and that's the bass playing of Mike Roach and the guitar playing of Ron Emery. Ron Emery, over the years, has become one of my favorite guitar players ever in the entire history of rock and roll. Ron Emery is timeless. Like, Ron Emery would have been an amazing player in the 50s. He would have been amazing in the British Invasion. He would have been amazing. Like, you can kind of drop Ron Emery into nearly any era of rock and roll, and he would have been amazing. His tone, his sound, his playing style, the taste level, like what he chooses to play, when he chooses to play, he basically, every move he makes is the right one. It's just incredible. And then you have Mike Roach, these absolutely beautiful melodic bass lines that do counter melodies, just absolutely gorgeous. Like, and the music that comes from the two of them, and I've talked about this effect with Black Flag and with Public Image Limited, and I think with Lou Reed, where you start getting more than the music. There's this other thing, this other element that comes in from these people just playing at the same time and playing with each other. Jesus Christ, it's just unbelievable. And the thing about TSOL, well, we'll get to that in a second. The thing about TSOL is there is a rightness to them. So while on a chops level, Bad Brains take it, and while on a ferocity level, you would probably have to go with Black Flag for just the sheer visceral, overwhelming nature of what they do. When you listen to TSOL, there is an absolute rightness to them. And there really is this sense of, this is how this music should sound. This is how this music should be played. There is this sort of rightness of perfection to them, where all of it, like, once they clicked for me, it was, this is this music at its highest level. And again, that sense of rightness, it's the same thing when you hear when you listen to British invasion bands and then you get to the Beatles. So really, you could kind of say that TSOL So anyway, so the first song they do is Weathered Statues. And I could not find, I have a really pristine, beautiful version of the Weathered Statues EP. And damn it if I couldn't find it. It's around here somewhere. But that artwork, oh my God, it's just so gorgeous. Like, what beautiful artwork. So Weathered Statues here is done a little faster. It's easily kind of musically like the most ambitious thing here. This has nothing to do with hardcore. And that's to the point that one of the things I really love about TSOL is, as much as they were a pioneering hardcore band and they're thought of as a hardcore band, they were really informed by Susie and the Banshees and the Damned and a lot of other stuff. I mean, as Jack Grisham always points out, his favorite music is like the Spinners and the OJs, and he's a soul guy. Not that he sings like that, but just that they were combining a very, very wide range of influences and ideas. And Weathered Statues is such an ambitious, almost sort of spoken word theater piece, sea shanty, like, it's so unusual and so unique. And like, the version that's on the EP is awesome, but this is even better because, first of all, Ron Emery pulls out a corker of a solo that's like one of the great driving through the empty city streets at 11 at night kind of solos. Just absolutely gorgeous. And Jack really leans into like the theatricality of the performance, and it's just, and some of the little screaming that he does to hit certain, like, he also just treats it a little more melodically. It's amazing. It's such a cool performance and such a great idiosyncratic, unique song. And then we get, oh my God, and then we get The Sounds of Laughter, which was released on this. This, of course, is 1981's Dance for Me. I don't have the cool, this is like the ugly version that doesn't have the cool all black logo. But this is, again, this is one of the most perfect albums ever made. Music really, 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 really doesn't get better than this. I can't wait to talk about this someday. But at any rate, The Sounds of Laughter, again, do I like it even better than what's on the album? My God, I might, because it's just a little faster. Jack sounds awesome. Like, his sort of screaming vocal on it is really, really, really cool, and he just sounds fantastic. He sounds like one of the great rock and roll frontmen. And unfortunately, so Todd Barnes is slightly muted in the mix, and that's one of the things about Black Flag. The version of Live at the On Broadway is a much clearer, more open mix, so you can hear the awesomeness of the rhythm section that much more powerfully. So I should just throw that in there. But anyway, you don't fully get the awesomeness of Ron Emery, and that is where the studio recordings are then kind of more impressive, because when you can, Mike Roach, because when you can hear him clearly, oh boy, like, and again, the sound of those guys playing together, the meshing of that guitar and bass it's goddamn almost celestial to me. It almost turns into music of the spheres. I really, really love TSOL. It just hits me exactly right every single time. So but you can still hear that he's awesome, and you can still hear that he's doing really amazing things. But god damn it, man, as awesome as Todd is, as awesome as Mike is, and as fucking fantastic as Jack is, Ron Emery just steals the show, man. Like his solos, his playing, this is perfect rock and roll guitar playing. It leads the way. It's informed by what came before, but leads the way as to what to come. That tone, it's so good. It's the next level of, or a continuation of the Velvet Underground in 1969. It's just so perfect. And every little fill he does, like when he decides to jump up and hit a chord as opposed to jump up and hit a single note, like every move is always the right move. You know, he never, ever, ever puts a foot wrong, or puts a hand wrong, I should say. And listening to Ron Emery at his best is like watching Muhammad Ali box in 1966. It seems effortless. It seems, I don't know, it seems God-driven, God-given, and yet it's obviously not easy to do. It's not easy to be the sort of that on it, you know? So, yeah, TSOL, my God. Oh, just, again, music just doesn't really get better than this. Have I stressed the point? Have I hammered away at this? That this is a perfect compilation. Next up, we have The Avengers with Cheap Tragedies, which was, we're going to time jump a little bit. This was recorded at Peter Miller Studios, May 10th, 1979. So that's it for 1982. 1982 is out of here, baby. So is 81. And this is on the upload on YouTube. Apparently there was a copyright strike on the Avengers song. So that is elsewhere. So I will link to that as well. So you can just jump over and listen to the Avengers. Anyway, the song Cheap Tragedies. I only have one thing, a physical copy by the Avengers. And that is this, The Avengers Died for Your Sins compilation, which is really, really cool and definitely secured my fandom of the band. There's some really, really great songs on here. Specifically, my absolute favorite is Friends of Mine, one of my favorite rock and roll songs of all time. So the Avengers were hugely, hugely important. They were way out in front of everybody else. They opened for the Sex Pistols at Winterland in '78, and their lead singer, their songwriter, lyricist, Penelope Houston, she's still out there. She's kind of converted a little bit into being something more of a singer-songwriter, and she's one of those people, I just haven't made the dive yet on her music. She's one of those people that I keep sort of thinking that I will get to. And there's a bunch of albums that she's made. I don't really know where to begin with her, and at some point I will do the deep dive with her because she's fantastic. And Cheap Tragedy. So the one thing about the Avengers as a band, so I've been talking about these bands kind of as bands musically and their awesomeness. The Avengers were always a little bit more straightforwardly rock and roll, and they were a lot more raggedy. And this is, again, I mean, this is 79, so this is sort of pre-hardcore or whatever. So they don't have that sort of white-hot perfection thing. But what they do have is, well, Penelope's voice and Penelope's songwriting. She has sort of that Joan Jett snarl, but as a lyricist, her level of precision as a lyricist, and it doesn't surprise me that she became more of a singer-songwriter, because her ability to nail the details is really, really perfect, and just always super on it and super smart. And she just has this way of kind of crafting these like perfect, succinct phrases in songs. And the other thing is, because this isn't like super like blitz hardcore stuff, they were a lot more melodic, and she had the voice, she had the vocal chops to carry it off. So the Avengers are really one of the great unheralded bands. There's the Pink album release. Like, I had a download of their first album because their stuff was always impossible to find and out of print. So I just have a download of the album and then a ton of extra bonus stuff, and I love that. And at some point I probably should do an Avengers video. That would be pretty cool, because I don't really see people talking about them, and for some reason, unlike the Slits, or unlike Patti Smith or Susie Sue, for some reason the Avengers haven't sort of gotten the cred, and that's just wrong, damn it, because she is amazing, and they were a great band. So love the song, love Cheap Tragedies, and yeah, what else can you say? Moving right along. And rounding out this perfect compilation, which has basically just been nothing but high points. We're going even further back in time. And truly, the Avengers still sound kind of contemporary with the 81 and 82 recordings. This, however, sounds like it was recorded in a completely different time. And that, so it was recorded just in San Francisco in 1977, and that's the Dils with Blow Up. And the Dils were one of the first LA punk bands. They had the, what is it, 198 Seconds of the Dils that was put out on Danger House Records. The Dils are, unfortunately, so there's that whole run of the early California punk bands. So the Screamers never made an album. The Dils, my understanding is there's stuff sort of all over the place with them. The Weirdos, kind of similar. I mean, the Weirdos didn't make a full-length album until 1990 or something. So there's just, it's sort of spread out over different compilations, and you have to kind of dodge about to gather everything. But these bands were amazing. I mean, the Weirdos are like one of the great rock and roll bands of all time. I mean, I love the Weirdos, and I have come very close to doing a Weirdos video. At some point I shall. But another band like that, the Alley Cats, they're another one that you hear about. So anyway, so the only physical copy that I have of anything by the Dils is, again, this compilation, Class War, which is really, really cool, and I love it, and really, really enjoy it. But at some point I just need to go and sort of grab all of the extant Dils recordings. They were a totally, totally unique, totally, totally interesting band. Because, how do I put it? They were punk in attitude and spirit, but what's so interesting about them is musically, they share most of their DNA with Buddy Holly and with like Sun Records or the Everly Brothers. And a lot of times, I think when people go back to the 50s, I mean, like, the Misfits and the Cramps amped up certain elements, and then there was sort of the weirdo humor and the sort of performance art aspect of it. And then you had, like, let's say, like, the Stray Cats, who were, you know, when I heard the Stray Cats as like a 6-year-old, I found it comforting, comfortable, and nostalgic. Nothing against them. They're very, very good at what they do, and Brian Setzer certainly can play the guitar, right? But there's most 50s stuff, and most people, when they try to do 50s stuff, it really just comes across as sha-na-na. I mean, it really is, or what's the English one, shoddy-dawadi, or whatever they're called. A lot of it just sort of comes off like that, you know? And the thing about the Dils is the Dils really, really do have sort of like the spirit of Buddy Holly. And yet, it's not retro, because it's pointing forward to the future, and you can easily make a hop, skip, and a jump to the Urinals or 100 Flowers from the Dils. So they're an interesting band in that, I guess, sort of like Ron Emery's guitar playing, it's informed by what came before, but then it also points its way forward, and it sounds, as a result, sort of weirdly timeless. And this is just a really awesome rock and roll song, and there is that, again, sort of early kind of British invasion, Buddy Holly, Everly Brothers thing. It's just really, really great. And for what the Dils were, a very ambitious sort of rev up arrangement that is also really, really cool. But there's something kind of strangely perfect about them being at the end, this being an almost an anachronistically lo-fi recording compared to what has come before. And it's almost like you're going from at least maybe fourth generation VHS to grainy black and white Super 8. And there's something as a result, and just the way their music sounds and the way they play it and the spirit behind it, there is something very, very strangely timeless about the Dils, and it's a kind of a very poetic, beautiful ending to this perfect compilation of them just sort of being beamed in from another universe. And also a reminder between the the ambition of TSOL, the open exploration, the open-endedness of what Black Flag and Flipper are doing, the great songcraft of the Avengers, the tightness and perfection of the Bad Brains. It's on and on and on. That punk at its best, artistic expression, just can go in whatever direction you want it to. And that's part of the power and the greatness and the beauty of it. And throw out the rules. And that's one of the beautiful things about art. And that is that's the role that art should play and function in society. And it's a truly, truly beautiful thing. So the Dils, great band. And they wind this up in phenomenal fashion. So I hope that you have enjoyed this. This truly is a perfect compilation, and go listen to it because it is absolutely incredible. And that about wraps things up here. And I will be back soon enough with another exciting video. So, like and comment and subscribe and all of the YouTube things. I'm being ambitious and saying, well, I don't know if I want to put a date on it, but we're marching to 300. Maybe we need to get to 275 first, but my channel is small, but we keep growing. Yeah. Yes. Even in small increments, it still grows, and that's a beautiful thing. So thank you very much. And yeah, tell your friends. So until next time, like I said, I hope that you've enjoyed this. I will see you all in the next video. And yeah, bye!
Just finished watching Rich Talks Records.